Hey, good morning, everyone. It just turned the bottom of the hour, so let's go ahead and start off with our preliminaries. I'm sure we might have a few additional folks join us in coming moments, but let's go ahead and kick things off. This is going to be RCView DAT dispatch training, specifically on creating and managing duty officer schedules and also performing other regional leadership tasks. And we're just really glad everyone is with us this morning. As a heads up, or just as an FYI, we are recording this session. You know, we are posting a recording of each of the classes, so we are recording this one towards that end. And as a reminder, and it sounds like you guys are doing a great job in terms of managing our background noise, but on this particular call, *1 is the key sequence to mute and unmute your phone. So let's go ahead. I'm going to share out our PowerPoint deck. I have run into some sort of WebEx weirdness where it's not allowing me to load my slides into the WebEx interface. So I am having to share my slides via screen share. So give me just a second to do that. Okay. So again, our topic today is regional leadership work in RCView DAT dispatch, specifically working with duty officer schedules and then performing a number of like 5 or 6 other regional leadership tasks. The audience for this session are those who either have or will receive regional leadership permissions in the system. Okay, and typically that's going to be the RDO, the DAT program lead, and their designees, right? Anyone that they designate as someone who needs to have those permissions in the system to do the sorts of things that we're going to talk about today. And we are focused primarily on regions that are currently in the process of implementing RCView DAT dispatch as part of the readiness initiative. There are 14 such regions, and I will list them out here shortly. If you are from a region that is not one of those 14, you are most welcome to stay. Some of what we talk about today, you will be able to apply immediately in your use of the system, but there are some other things that won't make sense or won't work until you are in the process of implementing the system yourself. And in terms of our objectives, here's what we're hoping that you're going to be able to do, you know, with the help of our various training materials and reference resources. We're hoping you're going to be able to create and manage duty officer schedules in the system. We're hoping you're going to be able to establish regional notifications, both event notifications and event status update notifications, and determine who receives those. You're going to be able to work with vehicle records, create and manage them. You're going to be able to work with other users' contact records. You can see their contact information, their emergency contact information, and even set another user's notification preferences. We hope you're going to be able to create a non-volunteer connection contact record, and that's typically done to set up a DAT phone and have a DAT phone that you're able to schedule for duty officer schedules or DAT schedules. And also, you'll be able to determine the system permission level of DAT dispatch users in your region. If you need to know, man, what permission level does Joe Smith have? Does he have duty officer or DAT coordinator? You're going to be able to go into the system and figure that out. So that's where we're heading today. That's what we're up to. Before we go any further, I would like to do quick introductions. My name is Andy. I'll be taking you through today's session, and I am joined today by a great panel. We've got Anna Caldwell, who leads the deployment effort of RCView DAT dispatch from Disaster Cycle Services, and we also have from the IT training team, Susan and Derek, and we're all on here to help you guys as we work through this session together. And just a few logistics things on this about the session. Again, *1 does allow you guys to mute and unmute your phone. If we get in a situation where there's some persistent background noise, I can mute everybody from my end, and I'll do that if we need to, and I'll communicate that when we do that. You guys are most welcome to ask questions as we go through the session. You can come off of mute to ask a question, over the phone, or you can send us a question via chat. Our suggestion, though, is if you do send a question in via that WebEx chat feature, go ahead and direct it. There's a drop-down menu where you can choose who you are sending a message to. Go ahead and direct that question to the host, presenter, and panelist. And that means everybody on the panel will see it all at once. And it's not dependent on one member of the panel turning their attention, to your specific question. It'll have a broader audience of recipients. Okay, in terms of course credit, we're happy to give you guys EDGE credit for working all the way through this class. You do need to be registered in EDGE to receive credit. And if you are joining this session as a group, like there's more than one person watching together and participating together, let us know via chat who all is a part of that group so we can get credit to everyone who needs credit in the system. And just hopefully this is, to put your mind at ease, we do have a range of training materials, reference resources for you guys about everything we talk about today. There are multiple job tools relevant to our topic today. These training slides are posted for you. You can get at them. We do have a checklist when you sit down to create a new duty officer schedule. We've got a checklist to help you work through that process. And we do hold regular office hours where you can come and have questions answered. Okay, now we'll return to this list at the end of class and show you specifically where this stuff is located. But we just want you to know that going in so that you don't have any anxiety about having to, capture everything we say via note. We do have a lot of resources posted and available for you. I mentioned those 14 regions earlier that are implementing the RCView DAT dispatch as part of the readiness initiative. This is the list of those regions and also a list of the implementation leads for those regions. It's good for you guys to know who your implementation leads are. You can ask them questions. They can get you materials that you may not have access to and so forth. So if you don't know who your implementation lead is, this is a place where you can see that. And my understanding is that since we created this slide deck, we have had a change in Western Pennsylvania in terms of the implementation lead. If anyone is on from Western PA, just send a chat in to the host, presenter, and panelist, and we can let you know who the implementation leads are for Western PA. Okay, so that's by way of preliminaries. Those are the things we want you to know, and we just want to go ahead now and dive in and just introduce you guys to the concept of duty officer schedules and why they're so important. And they are, absolutely central to performing DAT activations in the system, right? Any time that the duty officer is not receiving that call directly to the event notification call, or, the call might be, transferred to them from a front desk or something like that. Anytime a dispatcher is taking that initial call and recording the event in the system, duty officer schedules are absolutely central to what we're doing. Okay, and as is so often the case in the system, it all starts with the event details to include the address. And when dispatchers create these event records in the system, they enter the address in such a way that the system geocodes the address. That means the system can recognize the latitude and longitude for where the event occurred, so it knows precisely where on Earth the event happened. And because the system knows precisely where on Earth the event happened, it knows what county and DAT territory or DAT response area it occurred in. It's because it knows what county or DAT territory it occurred in, it can point to the right duty officer schedule. And because it can point to the right duty officer schedule, it can point to the on-call duty officers. Okay, and then either the system can start notifying those duty officers or a dispatcher can manually start notifying those duty officers. And it's fair to say that, it's an assumption underlying the whole system, right, and the processes that are built around the system, that duty officer schedules will be created and effectively maintained. Okay, and that falls to you guys who have regional leadership access in the system. And to sort of give you a sense of what this looks like and hopefully drive home that relationship between the event address, the duty officer schedule, and the on-call duty officers, I'm going to do just a really quick demonstration for you here. So what I have and what I'm sharing with you now is an event that I've started the creation process for, working as a dispatcher. In the system, you can see that the fire department called about an event on Upper Reach Drive in Wilmington, North Carolina. The caller needs help, okay? As a dispatcher, I've determined that Red Cross action is required, and I'm working as a national dispatcher in this particular demonstration. Here's the assistance we think that the client needs. Immediate action is required. It's a single-family fire. It's a single-family home, 1 unit affected, 2 adults and 2 children. Okay, and here's the client's information, and the client is currently located on scene. So as a dispatcher, at this point, having recorded all this information, I would go in here and click OK. And by doing that, that's completes the process of event creation, right? So the system goes ahead and it creates that event. And if I come in here and go to, I can stay as a dispatcher, that's fine. You can see that the call has been saved and it's identified the duty officer schedule, and it happens to be a manual duty officer schedule. And if I go in here and open the event record, again, 913 Upper Reach Drive in Wilmington, if I open that event record all the way up, oh, wait a minute, sorry, I didn't need to do that. Pilot error. If I open that event record up, I can see over here on the right that it has identified the duty officer schedule. Okay, you've got this duty officer schedule and notification section at the top. It's the New Hanover County, North Carolina duty officer schedule, which uses manual notification. So I, as the dispatcher at this point, can scroll down here, see who the on-call duty officers are, and I can start contacting them. These are, as you can see, obviously by the names, these aren't real accounts in the system, and so we've got, there aren't any phone numbers listed here for these particular individuals, but for real people, their cell number, work number, home number, and so forth would appear here, and the duty officer could start calling down the list. Okay, if it were an automatic schedule instead of a manual schedule, the system would immediately start contacting the people who are on call for that particular duty officer schedule. And we'll talk a little bit more about how it does that in a second. But the big takeaway from that demonstration is that based on the address that gets entered for the event, the system can determine what's the right duty officer schedule, and then based on that schedule, it can determine who's on call right now, and therefore potentially the duty officer who will end up accepting and taking responsibility for the event response. Okay. So that's sort of how all that works. So I'll pause briefly. Does anybody have any questions on that piece, how those elements work together? Okay. All right. So if not, let's talk a little bit more about these schedules. I'll go back to my PowerPoint deck here. So one thing I want to talk about is, how you can determine the geography for a duty officer schedule, right? That is to say that the area that it covers. And you've got 2 options for that when you're in and working with them. A duty officer schedule can cover 1 or more counties, okay, if you want to take a county-based approach to coverage, or 1 or more DAT territories. Okay, you can do one or the other, but you should not attempt to cover a mix of counties and DAT territories for any one schedule. Right? So for any one duty officer schedule, you make that fundamental decision. Am I going to set up the geography in a county-based way or a DAT territory-based way? And then you choose the appropriate county or counties, or you choose the appropriate DAT territory or territories. And this is just a screenshot from a duty officer schedule's details tab. And you can see you've got a section where you can choose counties, and there's a section where you can choose territories, and you're going to work in either one or the other to set up these duty officer schedules. Okay, and if you have any questions around DAT territories, that verbiage may be a little confusing because different regions and areas might use that term territory in different ways. But for For the purposes of RCView DAT dispatch, when we say DAT territory, what we mean is the DAT responder territory or DAT response area, right? So that's a geographical region to which a particular disaster action team is assigned, within which they work, and each of those territories has a single active DAT schedule. Okay, and we have clear geographical boundaries. These territories have been created for the first 14 regions that are going to use the system as part of the RCView DAT dispatch implementation process. They have been loaded into the system, so they are in there and ready. And if you have any questions about the DAT territories in your region, your implementation lead is a great source of the information for them, and how many there are and how they are set up and so forth and so.
Andy?
Okay. So, yes, please.
This is Hal. Did you say that the county and the territory was an either or?
That's correct, for any single duty officer schedule.
Okay, so, all right, so the issue that I had yesterday could be resolved by going to the territories. Okay.
Yep, you can choose one or the others. I wouldn't want to mix and match on the same duty officer schedule, counties and territories. You kind of choose an approach, and once you have that approach, you can make your choices from there. So thank you for the question, Hal. What I want to do quickly is I want to stop sharing, sorry. And I want to throw a few poll questions at you guys, because we may have some folks, in fact, I'm sure we have some folks on the call who have experience in working with these duty officer schedules and creating them and managing them. If you do have experience working with duty officer schedules in the system, go ahead and click a green check mark. We've got emoticons down at the bottom of the participants list. Okay, we do have some veterans. All right, so I would invite you guys who have some experience working with these duty officer schedules as we work through this initial part of class. If you guys have any wisdom from your time working with these schedules, and it's something we don't touch on, please feel free to chime in and share what you know with the others. One other thing I want to do is stop sharing and just ask, regardless of whether you have any experience working with duty officer schedules, click the green check mark if you attended the DAT coordinator training we held a couple of weeks ago on creating and managing DAT schedules. Okay, that's probably a little bigger group. Okay, I like to ask that question because if you're familiar with how DAT schedules work, then much of what you see with duty officer schedules is going to be familiar to you. Okay, a lot of the same concepts apply. For my money, the duty officer schedules are a little easier to work with. There's no concept of minimum and maximum resources. Oh, I'm sorry, we do have minimum and maximum resources at the Edit Resource Structure window, but we do not have minimums and maximums on the Details tab. So there's just one minimum and maximum setting that we're concerned with for each of those positions. And then the other thing is that for duty officer schedules, there's not that concept of on-call, generally available and emergency only. Okay, everybody is on call, but we just have a series of positions set up so that the system can, in effect, it's almost works the same way, because the system's going to go from one position to the next to notify people, but you don't have to set someone up as on call and potentially also is generally available for the same position. Okay, so I think duty officer schedules are a little easier going when it comes to creating and managing them. Okay, so in terms of working with duty officer schedules, the process for creating them, we're going to go in, you've got to log into the system, right, into RCView DAT dispatch. You need to have that regional leadership access. And the first thing you're going to do is initiate the process, and we'll show you what that click path is to start the process of creating a schedule. And once you've started it, you're going to work at the Details tab first, and you're going to give the schedule a name, define its geography, who are its editors, are you going to use automatic or manual notification for the duty officers? You just set up those specifics at the Details tab. You do have that one-time step at the Options tab to make sure that your schedule is not negatively affected by the switch to or from daylight savings time, which kicks in this Sunday. So those of you who have existing duty officer schedules, if you've created them since the last time, right, since we left daylight savings time, you may want to take a look and make sure you're all set on this Options tab so you don't get any surprises on Sunday morning. Once you've done that one-time setting, you're going to go to that Edit Resource Structure window, and that's where you're going to set the shift patterns for each of the positions, because we have, duty officer, backup, reserve, and you can decide how long those shifts are. Do you want 6-hour, 8-hour, 12-hour, 24-hour, and so forth? So you establish those patterns, and you also establish the minimum and maximum values for scheduling. You enter values that determine how the color coding on the schedule works to give you a heads up of where you have scheduling gaps. And after that's done, you're working with people, right? You are associating duty officers with the schedule so that they can be signed up for particular shifts, and then you're going to start assigning them to shifts at the rostering tab, and or encouraging your duty officers to sign up for shifts via the DAT app. And that's the work that we do in terms of creating a duty officer schedule. And one thing I would like to do before we go any further on this piece is I want to speak briefly to this idea of having duty officers sign up for shifts via the DAT app. Okay, and I want to sound a note of caution, I guess, on that, because duty officer schedules work a little differently than DAT schedules in relation to people signing up through the DAT app. Those of you who took the training on DAT schedules, you'll recall that the maximum resources that you establish for each of those position and availability listings, such as DAT responder on call, DAT responder generally available, that maximum resource for each of those limits the number of people who can self-register for a given DAT shift, right? So if your maximum resources for DAT responder on call is 1, that the one person can self-register through the app, but the system will prevent a second person from self-registering through the mobile app. Okay, DAT coordinators can add more people and overfill shifts if they want, but someone cannot overfill a shift by self-registration through the DAT app. That limit or that cap is not in play with duty officer schedules. So if your duty officers are going to use the app to sign up for shifts, there is a risk that some of those shifts will overfill. And, if you're using automated notification and you've got, more than one duty officer, more than one backup and so forth scheduled at the same time, multiple people might be notified of an event by the system at the same time, which might lead to some confusion as to who's taking care of that event. Okay, so, say you have 2 duty officers scheduled at the same time, the first duty officer acknowledges the event. When the second duty officer can also acknowledge that event, the system will send them an email, right, that says, hey, somebody else is working this. And they will notice when they go into the system that the event is, associated with a different duty officer, but there's some potential confusion there, right? And so that's why I wanted to sound a note of caution. You guys can, think about this, talk locally about your, your thoughts and your stance on it. You could potentially ask your duty officers not to use the app to sign up for shifts. And regardless of whether they're doing that or not, it's a good idea to just keep an eye on those schedules to see if you have any overbooked shifts. And, if you do, you can maybe contact somebody and give them a break, right? Because, we already have somebody working that particular shift. So just a word of caution. We will, throughout this presentation, I will reference at times the possibility of duty officers self-registering for shifts. And I won't repeat this every time, so I just kind of wanted to get that out there at the start and make sure that was clear to everyone. Okay, So just by way of sort of a high-level look at the workflow for creating a duty officer schedule, okay, what you're going to do is start at the Details tab. That's where you're going to enter the name, the name of the schedule, whether it's automatic or manual. You're going to indicate the geography as well. Okay, and then you're going to finish that piece and save. You'll go over to the Options tab, take care of the daylight savings time issue, make sure that doesn't affect you. You'll go to the Edit Resource Structure window, set up your shift patterns, set your minimum resources and maximum resources for scheduling. Then you'll go to the Resources tab, associate the people with the schedule who belong on it, and you slot them into the appropriate positions. And then at the Rostering tab, you start assigning people to specific shifts. Okay, you assign somebody to a shift on, March 9th from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. And that's how we work all the way through the process of creating a duty officer schedule. And, we've got that initial setup work for each duty officer schedule, but then after they're set up, there is some care and feeding that has to be done. And, much of that care and feeding is just simply ensuring that you've got enough duty officers signed up for shifts. Okay? Looking for overbooked shifts, looking for shift gaps, making sure that you've got appropriate coverage. Other than that, you might at times be editing or deleting shifts for which a duty officer has already signed up. Somebody may contact you and say, I can't do that extra, I need to go in and delete it, or they say, I can't do 12 hours that day, but I can do 10. You need to go in and make that kind of adjustment. You may at times need to add a new person to the schedule or remove somebody from it. And, less often, you may need to do things like changing a shift pattern, a minimum or maximum resources value. You may need to add an additional editor because, somebody else needs to help keep an eye on the schedule and how it works. And you can do all of those things as part of the maintenance process. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to start, doing the work in the system of creating a duty officer schedule. But before we do that, I'd like to pause briefly. Does anybody have anything pending, any questions conceptually about duty officers and how they work? Okay, so let's forge ahead then and start talking about creating a duty officer schedule. Now, before you start, there are some things you want to attend to. You need to be able to log into the system, of course, and you need to have regional leadership access because that gets you to the regional leadership dashboard. You'll see that in just a second. You need to be familiar with the job tool. We've got a checklist that you can have handy to make sure you're crossing your T's and dotting your I's as you work through the schedule creation process. If you are using the territory-based option for your duty officer schedules, it's good to make sure you have a firm sense of your region's territories and which ones are appropriate to include for the schedule you're working on. And it can't hurt to make a note of when our office hours are in case you want to drop in and ask a question about a schedule that you've hit a snag on or have a question about. Okay, once you're ready to go, you do need to log into the system, and we log in at rcview.redcross.org, and you log in with the same email address and password that you use to access Volunteer Connection. Okay, I recommend going directly to that site instead of Googling RCView, for example. And when you reach RCView, you could make a bookmark, and then you can always just go back there quite readily. If you happen to hit any snags getting into the system, we do have a document posted for troubleshooting that should help you understand, what's going on and what you might need to do next. And this is the login screen. Okay, when you go to rcview.redcross.org, this is what you see. You put in your email address and password, the same one you use to go into Volunteer Connection, and you click Sign In, and you're into the system and ready to go. Okay. Once you're in there and cooking, you're going to initiate the process of creating a new schedule at the Regional Leadership Dashboard. That dashboard has a lot of tabs, and you're going to go to the Manage Schedules tab to do this piece. And once you're there, you're going to click New Duty Officer Schedule. And that's going to open up a new DAT schedule screen for you in a separate tab or window, and you can start your work. And so this is a screenshot. This is the Regional Leadership Dashboard. And there's the Manage Schedules tab. And here's the New Duty Officer Schedule button. You click that button, and bam, here's the screen where you go in and start creating a schedule. And you can see some of the fields have orange boundaries around them. Those are the fields that are required for saving. But there are other fields you're certainly going to want to work at and pay attention to as well. So essentially, you get to this screen, you complete everything, you click Save, and then at that point, the system is going to save your schedule. It will display it at the Resources tab after you save, and the schedule is going to be listed for you at that Manage Schedules tab. So at this point, you can leave the schedule, do something else, come back and resume work on it later. Okay, and if you've made anyone else an editor for the schedule, they will have it available at their Manage Schedules tab as well, assuming that they too have regional leadership access in the system. Okay, hopefully you won't see this orange pop-up. This is the pop-up that indicates that you're creating a duty officer schedule for a geography, or at least partially a geography that is already covered by another active duty officer schedule. So keep an eye out for this. Hopefully you won't see it, but if you do, be warned that you're about to have multiple duty officer schedules for the same geographic area. And you, of course, want to go in and get that resolved, because we want one active duty officer schedule for any one place. A few things to keep in mind when we work at that Details tab and are creating an initial schedule. One is the naming convention. You know, if you're using county-based schedules, the format is to list the county, comma, and then the state abbreviation, such as Fulton County, Georgia. And, you know, if you're using the county-based approach, you're probably going to have some schedules that include multiple counties, and that's okay. You can just use in your naming convention the name of the busiest county of that group. Okay. If you're using DAT territory-based schedules, you know, indicate the relevant territory, and be sure to identify it as a duty officer schedule. And if the schedule comprises multiple DAT territories, you know, create a schedule name that duty officers will recognize, right? And that's kind of the bottom line, is to have a name that your folks will recognize. And this, you know, here are some examples of duty officer schedule names: Fulton County, Georgia, Eastern Kentucky DO or duty officer schedule. You don't want to make these too long. Sorry about that. You don't want to make your schedules too long, particularly if you are going to, if you're okay with your duty officer self-registering through the app, because, you know, they have to display in the app, you know, in a field that's only so big. I know on my phone that field only shows 28 characters. On my tablet, it shows more, so it does scale up and down a little bit. But as few as 28 characters for an iPhone 5E or whatever the little tiny phone is called. So keep that in mind as well. We don't want them to be too long. Another important thing, other than the naming convention when you're creating these duty officer schedules, is the notification type. And do you want it to be automatic, or do you want it to be manual? And, you know, like with everything else with these schedules, this is an editable option, so you can change things later if you want, and that change will go into effect on the very next event that comes through for that schedule. So you don't have to stick forever with whatever your initial choice is, but you do want to make a judicious initial choice. And realize that regardless of whether you choose automatic or manual, everything starts the same way, right? It starts by the dispatcher doing what I demonstrated at the very start of class, right? They create that event. They indicate the Red Cross action is required. They click OK. And that kicks off the process of identifying the duty officer schedule and notifying the duty officer. And again, we're talking here, you know, exclusively about events that are captured by a dispatcher as opposed to captured directly by a duty officer. So, you know, once that occurs, the dispatcher creates the event. They've said that Red Cross action is required. the system's going to start, doing its thing. Workflows are going to run. If it's an automatic notification type, at this point the system starts sending event notifications out to duty officers. And it's going to contact them per their notification preferences. So each person indicates, do they want to be notified via phone call or robocall, as it were, a text, and or an email. Okay, and it's going to call down by position on the schedule. Okay, and so, here's a screenshot of a duty officer schedule. So we've got duty officer on call, backup on call, reserve on call, DPS on call, and so forth. The system's going to call down by position. Okay, so typically we just have one person scheduled for each position, and so at any one time, and so it's only calling one person at a time or notifying one person at a time. But if you have a circumstance where multiple people are scheduled at the same time, if, for example, this shift block for Arnold extended over here under the shift block for Susan, and they were both scheduled at the same time, the system would call them both simultaneously. Okay? So it calls down by position, not by individual. But in effect, if we're just scheduling one person at a time in each position, then in effect it is, calling down by person. But bear that in mind. That's kind of a common misperception, is that people think it's calling down always by person, when in fact, if you've got multiple people scheduled at the same time for a position, and it's an automatic schedule, bam, it's going to hit them both simultaneously. So what the system does, it kind of mimics what the national dispatchers do. It will send that initial notification automatically. It'll wait 5 minutes for a response. If it doesn't get one, okay, if the person who was contacted doesn't say respond in some way, then it will send a second one after 5 minutes. It'll wait 5 more minutes, and if there's no response to that second notification after 5 more minutes, it will go down to the next position on the schedule. So it just calls down the schedule by position, kind of 10 minutes at a time. Initial notification, wait 5 minutes. Second notification, wait 5 minutes. Move to the next position. Okay. If it happens to work all the way down the schedule and nobody responds or nobody accepts the notification, the dispatcher is going to manually contact the RDO and start a process to make sure that somebody there is going to work this event and get a DAT team activated as appropriate. So that's the deal with automatic notifications. Okay, that's how they work. Manual notifications, the difference is that instead of the system automatically calling people, a dispatcher does that. And they're going to call down the people, starting with the people in the first position. They can view at an event record. They can see everybody that's currently on call for that duty officer schedule. You can see the contact information is listed here. This is what was missing in that demonstration that I did, because those records just didn't have contact info. But it lists the contact information, and the dispatcher can start calling, and they follow that same rhythm, right? They call, they wait 5 minutes, they call again, they wait 5 minutes, and then they'll move on to the next person. So that's a key decision you've got to make, is that automatic versus manual notification type. So I'm going to demonstrate that now, but I'm actually going to bundle these demonstrations. I'm also going to show you the Options tab. After we save at the Details tab, I will just jump over to the Options tab, and this is where we do a one-time setting to ensure we're okay for daylight savings time. Here we choose the second option, which is start and end time based on a time zone, and you choose the appropriate time zone for the schedule and click Save. Okay, so I'll show you both of these things in a single demonstration. All right, so let's go back into the system, and I'm going to stop being a dispatcher. I'm going to start being a regional leadership. And so, this is how you're going to know immediately whether or not you have regional leadership permissions when you log into the system, is if you hover over this home menu item, you will either have the regional leadership option in the drop-down or not. Okay, if you have it, then you know you have regional leadership permissions. If you don't have it, then you know you do not. Okay, so I'm just going to click Regional Leadership. And this is the Regional Leadership dashboard. It's got a high number of tabs. In fact, there are too many tabs for me to see from this particular screen, so I would have to use this arrow button to see any tabs that I'm missing. You can use the arrows to see any tabs that aren't currently displayed. I'm going to go over here to Manage Schedules. That's where I'm going to do this work. Here you can see existing schedules are listed for me. You can see a couple of DAT schedules and a duty officer schedule. I've got duty officers listed over here. These are the people who are scheduled or resourced for this duty officer schedule as either duty officer, backup, or reserve. It doesn't go any deeper than that when listing people over here. And I'm going to create a new schedule for Wake County, North Carolina. And so I don't see a listing here that I have. You know, it could be that somebody else has created this and just hasn't made me an editor. So I do want to keep an eye out for that duplicate schedule pop-up in case I do something like that. So I'm just going to click New Duty Officer Schedule. And the system, you can see, it's loading a new tab. Here's the tab I was working at previously. It's opened this new tab where I can go in and create this schedule. So I'm going to put the name in here, Wake County, North Carolina. I am by default an editor. I don't have to list myself. But if somebody else is going to be an editor on this schedule, I just come here and choose them. So maybe Anna needs to be an editor for this schedule. And so I did that a little too fast. I clicked this file icon at the editor field. That launches a select window, and I can search for Anna, Alaska. I can go find her, choose her, click select, and now she'll be an editor as well. And as soon as I click save down here, the schedule will also show up for her at her Manage Schedules tab. Okay, and so this is how you can have the schedule available to multiple people to work on it. The notification type defaults to manual. I can change that to automatic if I want to. I'm actually going to leave this one at manual. The status defaults to active, which is what we want for a new schedule. There may be occasion to change that to inactive. We'll talk about that a little later. What's the time zone for the geographic area for this schedule, which is Wake County, North Carolina. That's in the Eastern time zone. The start date needs to be before people are going to start signing up for shifts, or you're going to start assigning people to shifts. So I'm going to set that start date to yesterday. The end date is really not that important to us. So I'm just going to copy the start date, put it in the end date, and set it out by 10 years. And now I'll never have to worry about that end date, or at least I don't have to worry about it for a very long time. A little further down, there's a place to enter some notes here. Now, these notes aren't visible elsewhere, so it's, you can put something in here if you like. Now I'm going to do the last critical thing here at this Details tab is choose my geography. And so first thing I'm going to do is choose the division. And so North Carolina is in the Mid-Atlantic division. When you choose a division, the system will list out the regions for that division. So now I'm going to click the appropriate region. Wake County is in Eastern North Carolina. Sorry about that. And when you click a region, then it's going to a little further down. It'll list out counties and territories. You're going to work in one or the other, right? And so Wake County is what I'm going to choose. I'm just going to scroll down here. This duty officer schedule is going to be for Wake County. I'm going to come down here and click Save. And there you go. Okay, I'm not finished, of course, creating this schedule, but at this point, it is saved for me. If I were to go back to the Regional Leadership Dashboard, it's listed here for me, and I can open it up and work further with it. And it's also on Anna, Alaska's dashboard to work on as well. So I'm going to open that schedule back up. I'm going to go over here to the Options tab. Again, this is an easy thing to do. It's very fast, but the trick is remembering to do it. You remember to do it. You do it once. You never have to worry about it again. So I'm going to choose Start and End Time based on a time zone. I'm going to click in here. The trick of the trade here is to type in US/, and then that'll take you to US time zones, and I can just choose US Eastern, and then come down here and click Save. Okay, now I'm cooking with gas, right? Because I've got my schedule set up at the Details tab. I've taken care of the work at the Options tab, and I am moving right on down the line. So remember, we had that sort of 5-step process slide where we've already taken care of 2 of them. So we're 40% through the process at this point. So what I'm going to do now, and I'll pause quickly. Does anybody have questions based on what we've done so far? Okay, sounds like we're doing all right. So let's talk a little bit about the Edit Resource Structure window, okay, because that's where we're going next. And this is where we're going to set our shift patterns for these different positions, as well as the minimum and maximum resources for scheduling. And again, you set those minimum and maximum resources, and that allows you to look at the schedule and tell by color coding, which fields, which shifts are filled appropriately, which are understaffed, and which are overstaffed. Okay, and the way it works is if you set a minimum of 1 and a minimum resources of 1 and maximum of resources of 1, for example, for the duty officer on call position, if no one is signed up for a particular shift, that will show as red. If 1 person is signed up for that shift, that will show as green. And if 2 people or more are signed up for that shift, that will show as blue. Okay, and so that's how those minimum and maximum resources drive the color coding. So to do this, you have to actually get to the Edit Resource Structure window, and you're going to do that from the Resources tab. There's a Structure button there. And the Resources tab, there's a Structure button. You click that button. It launches the Edit Resource Structure window, which lists our 9 positions, duty officer, backup, reserve, and so forth. And then if you select one of those positions, you get this information over on the right that includes the shift pattern and the minimum and maximum resources values. And to do this work, when setting up a schedule, you're just going to go to the first position, set your shift pattern, set your shift pattern, set your minimum and maximum resources, click OK. Go to the next position, shift pattern, minimum, maximum resources, click OK. You just do that all the way down the line, and at the end you click Save. Okay, so you work through it when you set up the schedule. You may need to come back to a position later and make some adjustments. But in terms of just sitting down and doing the soup to nuts, from the first position through the last, you really only do that once. Okay, so that's what we're going to do now. So let's go ahead and take a look at that piece. So I'm going to go back into the system. So I'm here at the Resources tab. I'm just going to click on this Structure button. Notice it's opened up for me, but it's opened up with the list of positions collapsed. And so I'm going to expand them out. And I'm actually going to just expand this window too. Okay. So I'm going to expand them out. I'm going to click on the first one, Duty Officer on Call. Let's see what we've got. Okay. All right. Didn't quite work like it should. That's interesting. Let me just close the window and do that again. Structure. Give me a break here. Oh, charming. There we go. Let's see. It might be having a little internet problem here. Okay, now we're solid. So I've got for the duty officer position, it's defaulted to a 1-week shift pattern. And you know what? The appropriate shift pattern is going to vary from schedule to schedule, right? And those are decisions you guys are making locally. And for this particular schedule, I think instead of a week, we're going to do 12 hours for the duty officers. So I'm going to do 12 hours starting at midnight. And I'm actually fine with having the minimum and maximum as 1 for each of these positions, okay? Because I'm going to have, try to have 1 person in each position, and then I'll have plenty of coverage as a dispatcher or the system starts calling down by position. And so the duty officer position's okay, so I'm just going to click OK. And then I go to the backup. And maybe for backup, instead of a week, I'm going to do folks on a 24-hour shift pattern. Okay, and minimum maximum looks good. I click OK. For reserve, maybe for a reserve, I'm okay with a week and 1 and 1. So I click OK. DPS, I can take a look. That defaults to a month. Maybe I think that's too long for the DPSs, so I'm going to give them a week as well. 1 and 1, I click OK. From DPM on down, maybe I think a month at a time is all right. So I can come in here, check each one. Got an element of lather, rinse, repeat here. You just work all the way down these. You update those shift patterns as needed. If you want to change your minimum and maximum resources, you can. Work all the way to the bottom. And once you've checked them all out and clicked OK on the last one, made any changes, you click Save, and that piece is done. Okay, so now we've completed 3 of the 5 steps. Okay, and now everything else we've got to do with this schedule involves people. Okay, so we're going to start associating people with the schedule here at the Resources tab. And once we have people associated with the schedule in the right positions, we can start assigning them to shifts. Okay, so that's the direction we're headed in. Let me go back to the PowerPoint presentation. One final word on that edit resource structure window, though. You can do some advanced configuration at that window. The system allows you, to do such things as changing the names of the positions, changing the order of the position listings. That's stuff you can do. And our job tool covers that. It gives you all the details you need to pull that off. But our guidance is, don't even bother with that unless you have a compelling reason. Okay, if all points being equal, it's easier and safer to just stick with the default listings. Okay, but if you feel like it's really going to help or it matters for you guys to change the names or the order of those position listings, there is guidance in that job tool to work you through it. Okay, we sound that note of caution. We've had some regions do this with some early frustration, okay, because you have to be really careful when you do it. So you're welcome to check it out, but it's something we recommend you do only if circumstances really require you to do that. Okay, so let's talk about the Resources tab. This is where you're going to associate duty officers with position listings. Okay, notice that listing someone on the Resources tab does not sign them up for a shift. Okay, you're just making them available to be signed up for shifts in that position. Okay, so by way of example, Mario March, he has to be associated with the backup on-call listing at the Resources tab in order to be assigned backup on-call shifts, okay, or to be able to self-register for them. And you can, if you need to, associate a person with multiple positions on the schedule. So if Mario needs to, sometimes he wants to work on-call shifts and other times he wants to work backup shifts, he needs to be listed under both in order to be able to be assigned shifts in either. Okay, so you can certainly list somebody under multiple positions to do that. And this is just a screenshot, obviously, of a schedule, a duty officer schedule. So you can see the positions, and we've got some people assigned. And we've got this duty officer on-call position, and both Derek and Susan are associated with this. So either one of them could be assigned duty officer on-call shifts. They could not, however, be assigned backup shifts or reserve shifts because they're not listed under those positions. Okay, so you can only assign someone over at the rostering tab. You can only assign someone to shifts for which they are listed under that position on the Resources tab. Okay, so when you're working the Resources tab, you're setting up your team, you're assigning them to positions, and at the rostering tab is when you're putting them into the game. Okay, you're scheduling them for specific shifts. Now, one thing to know, to add people to the Resources tab, you just search for and find them. And you guys who have been through the DAT schedules class will remember there's a way to search in the DAT schedule so that the search results only feature people from your region, right? That is not the case for duty officer schedules. So you're going to get search results from across all of our regions. And so somebody with a really common name, like Mike Smith or Michael Smith, the search results may list, more than one person. And then it will help you to know, what each person's region is, so you can, find which one of those is your Mike Smith instead of the Mike Smith who is associated with their region across the country. So you can configure your search results to feature that region indicator. Okay, it doesn't appear by default, but it's something you can do yourself by way of configuration of your search results. So let's take a look at this piece, and I'm going to show you what it's like to go in and associate duty officers with position listings at the Resources tab. So let me go back in here. So here I am at the Resources tab, and I want to start scheduling people, or not scheduling, but associating people with these positions. So I click on the duty officer on-call position. The system lists everybody over here in the system by default. Look at this number. It's showing me 50 of over 180,000. Okay, so that's a bunch. I'm going to start looking for people to put on this schedule. So maybe I want to put Victor, Vermont on the schedule. So I can look for people who have a name like Vermont. Click apply. Here we have 2 Vermonts. Here's Victor. It's the guy I want. I check the box. He's associated with the schedule. So Victor is going to be able to be assigned duty officer on-call shifts. If he also wants to sign up for backup shifts, I can click on backup. And just search for him again. And add him again. Okay, and now he can sign up for, or be signed up for either a duty officer or a backup. Some of you guys might be used to searching over here through the search icon, and that's just fine. That works well. When we first released the system, this was the only option over here, and you're certainly still welcome to go in here and do this. It's not a problem at all. Just another way to search. And you can get your people added. Now, one thing you're noticing is that in my view here, this home region column is appearing automatically. It may not do that for you. I've gone in and done this configuration work, and it's just keeping my configuration. What you will likely see when you use the system is that home region column won't be there. Instead, down here at configure is where you can change these things, configure, modify columns. I think you guys are very likely, when you initially use the system, to instead of seeing a home region column, I think you're going to see one that says capability, okay, which is typically empty and therefore not terribly useful. Okay, so I think your search results are often going to look like this. If you find that's the case and you want to change that, again, you can come down here to configure, modify columns. You can get rid of a column you don't want, and you can add a column that you do. You can just go to that drop down and say, you know what, I want home region. Just scroll down here. It's got one home region. Okay. So now I've got a home region column instead of a capability column. So if I wanted to add Arnold Ferguson down here as reserved, I could search for him. And I can see his region in the search results, right? So we do have some test data in here where you're not seeing a region appear. But for those legitimate accounts in the system, if you add that column, you are able to see someone's region. Okay, and so, I'm not going to make you watch me, add people to all 9 of these positions, but, basically what you have to do is, for this particular geographic area, for this duty officer schedule, get everybody listed who might be scheduled for shifts in the positions that they might be scheduled in. So you just go through this process of searching and adding the people, and you only have to do that, one time for any given person. Just get them listed in their various positions, their various slots. You go over here to rostering, and they're available to be scheduled in those slots. And so you see a one-to-one correspondence between the people who are listed at the rostering tab and the people who are listed at the resources tab. At the resources tab, you're putting them on the team. You're assigning them one or more positions. At the rostering tab, you're putting them in the game and assigning them to specific shifts. Okay. So what I think I would like to do, we're doing pretty well on time together. I think what I would like to do is just go ahead and work through assigning these folks to some shifts, okay? And then we will take a short break, and when we come back from break, we will work through the various things we do to maintain a schedule, okay? But let's go ahead and finish the process of creating the schedule by getting some people rostered. And, you know, just a quick word before we do that on the rostering piece. Again, the rostering tab is where you assign duty officers to specific shifts. So if I've got Mario March, if I've got him associated with that backup on-call position, I can assign him to a particular shift on a particular day with a specific start and end time. And when you go to do this work of assigning people to shifts, you have the option of assigning them to single shifts, one shift at a time, or you can choose to add a recurring series of shifts, which makes a lot of sense if you have people who work really regular schedules, right? So if you have somebody who always works Monday through Friday for a set time, you can do the recurring series for them and get them assigned to, a number of shifts all at once. You can get them assigned to 15 shifts at one shot instead of clicking and adding one shift at a time. So situationally, as you use the system, you'll gain a good sense of, which option you want to use when. When you do the single shift option, it's always going to initially schedule that person based on the prescribed shift pattern for the position. So if the position is set up for 8-hour shifts, you will be assigning them an 8-hour shift. But you can then edit that shift and change it to be shorter or longer than 8 hours if desired. If you're doing a recurring series of shifts, you get the choice from the start of either using the prescribed shift pattern and limiting yourself to it, or creating a custom shift pattern as a part of that recurring series, right? You can do a recurring series of 10 shifts at a custom shift pattern just as easily as you can do a recurring series of 10 shifts using the prescribed shift pattern for a given position. So this, of course, is what we're aiming for. This is a duty officer schedule with a bunch of shift blocks. Those are the blue blocks that you see listed for each individual here at the rostering tab. That indicates when they're scheduled. Okay, so this is the sort of the end game of what you're doing is you're going to have a filled out schedule where people are assigned to particular shifts. So let me show you what this looks like. We're going to get some people assigned, and we're going to use different means to do it. So, here we are. Here's the schedule, and the system does give you this now indicator, so you can sort of position yourself in relation to, right now, time-wise on the schedule. You can zoom in and out, if you want to do that. You can, get a month view, a week view, a day view, and so forth. And once you've got the view that you want, you can start assigning people to shifts. And you're looking at this, and you can sort of see these. Let me scroll up a little bit. You can see these dotted lines, and those are giving you a sense of what the shift pattern is. You can see that for duty officer for Friday, we've got sort of two sections here, so we know that those are 12-hour shifts. For backup, there's just one per day, so we know those are 24-hour shifts. And, you can always return to that edit resource structure window if you need to get a reminder of what the shift pattern is for a given position. But when you're ready to just assign somebody to a single shift, let's say I want to put Victor, Vermont on the shift for tomorrow morning, you can just click to add. You may need a single click, you may need a double click, you'll kind of get used to that. Let's say he also wants to work Saturday and Sunday. Just click. I can add him to one at a time. Okay. If on Sunday he can't go the full 12 hours, he can only go 10, I can click. I can say edit. and indicate that instead of stopping at 12 p.m., he's going to actually stop at 10 a.m. Just come in here and make that choice and click OK. And now that's a 10-hour shift instead of a 12-hour shift. You may have to manually close that. But see how it doesn't extend all the way over for 12 hours? And if I click on it, it's indicating that it's a 10-hour shift. Okay, so it's just that easy to get people added to one shift at a time. Okay. Now, what if you want to, you've got that person who's really steady, and you want to set them up for a bunch of shifts all at once. So let's say that our friend Teresa, Texas here, likes to work and is really committed, and she works every Monday through Friday, that 12 p.m. to 12 a.m. shift. Okay, and I want to set her up for a couple of weeks worth of that all at one time. Well, I can check the box for her, and if I want to be sure I only use the prescribed 12-hour shifts, I can come up here and go New Shift, Fill Shifts, and I can say she's going to work. First thing you're going to do is set up kind of the model first shift of the series. So I'm going to say next Monday, she's going to work from 12 p.m. until next Tuesday at 12 a.m. Right? So that's that second half of the day shift. I probably want to limit her to shifts that aren't full. Right? So if somebody else has already grabbed one of those shifts, I'm not going to, double up or cause problems that way. The key to getting a recurring shift set up is to click this Repeats option. And let's say I want this to occur every week, and I'm going to spread it out a couple of weeks. Let's say I'm going to do next week and the week after that, so I'm going to put an ending here on the 17th. And I'm only going to assign her to Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. Okay, so I configure what I'm interested in, which is 12-hour shifts for the second half of the day, starting on the 12th, going for 2 weeks to end on the 17th, and I'm only interested in Monday through Friday. So I'm going to click Next, and the system's doing some work. You can see up here it's indicating that it's churning my request. Uh-oh. Oh, 3:20. I'm sorry. I grabbed the wrong day. 3:13 at 12 a.m. Okay. So because I chose Fill Shifts, okay, so it's looking for the prescribed shift pattern, and I was trying to extend it from the 12th to the 20th, the system kind of yacked for me. I just got sloppy on the calendar. Instead of choosing the 13th, I chose the 20th. So it helped me out. I'm going to try this again. Okay. And here you can see it's set up some shifts for me. It's going to do Monday the 13th from 12 a.m. until Tuesday at 12 a.m., Tuesday to Wednesday, Wednesday to Thursday, and so forth. Okay, so it's going to set up those for me. Let me go back because I'm not sure why it only did 1 week. Okay, I think you're suffering through some pilot error here, so forgive me. Oh, sure. Okay, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Because I messed that up, I'm just going to start over. So I'm going to say Teresa, Texas, New Shift, Fill Shifts. Shift is going to start on Monday at 12 p.m. That initial shift is going to end on Tuesday the 13th at 12 a.m. We're going to repeat every week, okay, until the 24th. Okay, I think I chose the 17th there, which is why we only got 1 week's worth of stuff. We're only going to do Monday through Friday, and now I think I've done a better job. So file that one under E for entirely my fault. So now we're going to let the system do its thing. Notice that it's churning up there. Okay, so now it's giving me 2 weeks worth of shifts, Monday through Friday, from 12 p.m. to 12 a.m. I can select them all, if she couldn't make a certain day, I could uncheck that box. I can just go ahead and select them all, click next. The system does some more churning up there. But after it's finished churning, it will assign, 2 weeks of shifts all at once for our friend Teresa, Texas. So if I scoot over here to next week, you can see, bang, bang, she's got her 5 shifts all set up. And if I scoot over a little further to the week after that, she's got her 5 shifts all set up. So that's the value add, right, of the recurring shifts, as you can do a bunch at once. And you don't have to follow the shift pattern, right? So this backup is set up for 24-hour shifts, right? It's one day at a time. Let's say that Victor can work Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, but he can only give us 18 hours, okay? He can't start until 6 a.m., but then he's good the rest of the way in. Well, I can go new shift, create custom shifts. We never use this shift pattern piece, but create custom shifts. Let's say he's going to start next Monday at 6 a.m., but he's going to end on Tuesday at 12 a.m. It's not quite a 24-hour shift. We're going to limit. We're going to repeat. This time I'm going to choose, I'm going to show you a little different way to skin this cat. You can say I'm going to repeat every day for 10 occurrences. Okay, so I'm going to do it that way. I'm going to come down here and click next. And you can see it spat out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. He doesn't work Saturdays or Sundays, so I can uncheck those days. And then I can come down here and click next. And it's going to, do that thing again. So it assigned him to all those shifts starting at 6 a.m. Okay, so if I scroll over, you can see we got him. We said 10 occurrences. We deselected 2. So we got 8 shifts created for our guy, Victor Vermont. All right. Okay. Yes, please. Oh, okay, my fault. I thought that was a question. Well, we're at a good place now for a break. So why don't we take a break and we can get caught up with any questions when we come back. I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to come here to our whiteboard and just write on here when we're going to return. So it is 10:42. Let's take a solid 5 minutes. It'll be another minute before I get this written. So let's resume at 10:48 Eastern. So wherever you are, at about 12 minutes before the hour, we will come back, we'll get caught up on questions, and then we will continue on to include talking about maintaining these schedules and then other stuff you do in the system with regional leadership access. So please stay in the WebEx session. You can hang up and call back in if you want, or just stay on the call, whichever you prefer, and we will resume in about 5 minutes. So thank you guys very much. All right, everybody, it's about time to resume. Let's do a quick check and see if we're getting close to a quorum here for starting back up. If you're back with us and ready to move ahead, click that green check mark, please, so we know you're ready to go. All right, we've got some folks that are ready to go. Awesome. Okay, so while the others return, this is a good time to get caught up with any questions. Do you guys feel free to use *1. Does anyone have any questions on the stuff we've covered so far? Okay. Is there anything pending from chat, panelists? And you guys too would need to use *1 to come off of mute. So I think I see one that may not have been addressed about individuals signing up for shifts? Okay, I'll go ahead and address that just in case. I think that the question was, can individuals signing up for shifts use the recurring option, like those signing up through the DAT app? And the answer is no, right? If you're doing self-registration for shifts, it is a one-at-a-time process. Okay, the regional leadership, those who own the schedules, can go in and assign a bunch of shifts through that recurring option, but those who are signing themselves up through the app, they don't have that recurring option. It is one at a time. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and dive back in then. Where we're going to go now is we're going to look at some of the maintenance things that you do with a schedule as it, as you use it and as time passes with regard to it. And an awful lot of what you're going to be doing, of course, is just ensuring that you have sufficient coverage for your various shifts. And there's that color coding that I mentioned before that allows you to do that. And perhaps the easiest way to use the color coding and to sort of get a grip on it, because there are a lot of colors happening on these schedules, as you can see. So one way to really get a sense of whether you have any scheduling gaps and where they occur is to collapse the listings over here at the rostering tab so that you're seeing the positions but not the people. And then the relevant color coding really comes into focus, because what we're worried about is the color coding for the position listings, not the colors that are happening at the individuals. Well, I'm not sharing, am I? Okay, thank you. My bad. Okay, let me fix that. Okay, so what I was saying is, and I apologize and appreciate the heads up there. If you collapse these listings so that all that you're seeing are the positions, the color coding really comes into focus. We're worried about the color coding at the position rows, not at the rows for the individuals. For the individuals, we're just looking for these blue things. And those rows might be pink, they might be green, that doesn't really matter at all. For the individuals, you're just looking for the shift blocks. But the color coding that allows you to see your gaps are the ones at the position listings themselves. And so we've got, you can take a look at duty officer and back up here. You can see we've got some green places and we've got some pink or red places. Green means that for that stretch of time, you've got sufficient coverage, right? We set up a minimum resources and maximum resources for each of these positions of 1. So where I see green, that means one person is scheduled. Where I see pink or red, that means no one is scheduled. Okay, so if I were to, for example, go into this duty officers list, notice I've got a gap here on Monday the 12th for the morning shift. I add that shift there. See how that turned from pink to green. Okay, I'll do it again. Notice that on this Tuesday morning, there's a gap identified. If I add the shift that covers it, that changes to green. If I overfill a shift, that changes to blue. Okay? So that's how you can use the color coding. You can tell at a glance, I've got some gaps, I've got some times when I'm good to go, and I've got an overfill right here. Okay, so that's when we talk about the color coding, that's what we mean. And again, it's relying on, for each of those positions, from that edit resource structure window, for each position to determine that color coding, it's looking right here at minimum resources and maximum resources. Okay, and that's how that color coding works. The other things you may need to do, you might on occasion need to delete a shift for someone. Okay, they had themselves scheduled and they're unable to fulfill it, and they might contact you and say, hey, I can't make it on Sunday. Well, you can go into the go into the system. You can click on the shift in question, choose delete. Okay. If the delete is not part of a recurring series, you'll get a message like this one. Are you sure you want to delete this shift? You just say confirm, and it will delete the shift. Okay, you can see it's doing a little work here, trying to delete. I want to delete, it's saying. I tried to delete, it's saying. Okay, so I'm not real sure what happened there. Let me just do a refresh of everything. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. Let's just delete another one instead. Let me just get this thing. It looks like it did delete it, but hang on, I need to go over here. All right. Okay. All right, let's delete this one. So I'm going to click on it. I'm going to click delete. Am I sure I want to delete it? Yes. And it deletes it. Okay, it just takes it right away. Okay, that's what it does, and that's the messaging you see if you created it as a single shift. What about, though, if you created it as part of a recurring shift, like we did for Teresa, Texas here? So we went in and we set her up for those afternoon sessions. And so I'm going to come in here and click. I'm going to say I want to delete that shift. And you can see now it gives me the option of deleting the single shift or all the shifts from that recurring pattern. So, if you added 10 shifts at a time, you can delete 10 shifts at a time, right? If you added 30 shifts, you can delete all 30. I think typically you're going to be, using the this shift option to get rid of one at a time. But, we're all human. It's certainly possible to make a mistake when assigning someone to those recurring shifts, right? And so you inadvertently assign them to 10-hour shifts when you meant to assign them to 10.5-hour shifts, and you created 12 shifts all at once, right? So you can go in and get rid of all 12 at a time by choosing the all shifts from this recurring pattern option. I'm just going to get rid of the one shift at this point. So you can go in, you can delete single shifts, you can delete recurring shifts. You've already seen how you can edit a single shift one at a time. You can also edit shifts that were set up as part of a recurring series. Okay, you can, for example, so Teresa got set up for all those shifts in that recurring series. Maybe just on this Wednesday, she needs to change the amount of time that she's going to be there. So I can click Edit. And so instead of arriving at 12 p.m. on this day, she's actually going to arrive at 2:30. I come down here and I say Next. And it's going to ask me, do I want to update just this one item, or do I want to update all of the items in the recurring schedule? So you get the same choice that you get when you're deleting from a recurring series, right? When you're editing, you can edit just the one, or you can edit all of them. Okay, so in this case, I'm just going to edit the one, and you can see it changed that to starting at a later time. It now starts at 2:30 p.m. Okay, but I could have changed all of the ones in that series to start at 2:30 p.m. if I wanted to. Just one word of, just one thing to know. If you're editing a recurring series and you're going to edit the entire recurring series, it does matter if you initially created that recurring series by going New Shift, Fill Shifts, or New Shifts, Create Custom Shifts. Okay? If you use the New Shifts, Fill Shifts option, you can edit the series, but you still have to adhere to the prescribed shift pattern for that position. So if, in the example of Teresa, Texas, where we used fill shifts, I could change the whole series, but I would have to change it based on 12-hour blocks, okay, either 12 a.m. to 12 p.m. or 12 p.m. to 12 a.m. I couldn't change the whole series to suddenly feature 9-hour blocks if I created the series using the fill shift option. On the other hand, if you created the series using the New Shift create custom shifts, you can make any change to the series that you want, right? So that's for Vermont. Remember, we set him up for 6 a.m. to 12, even though the prescribed shift pattern for that position is a 24-hour pattern. I could go in here and say, I want to do an edit here. Instead of 6 a.m., I want things to start at 8:30. And I'm actually going to do this for the entire series. Okay. And so I get my list of blocks, but now they're starting at 8:30 instead of 6. I can just next. I can choose, uncheck some boxes if I wanted to, but I just say next. I get this little bit of a warning, okie dokie. And now we've got those shift blocks for Victor, Vermont, and instead of starting at 6, they're starting at 8:30. Okay. So, you can delete these shifts easily enough, regardless of whether they were set up as singles or recurring. You can edit them regardless of whether they were set up as single or as recurring. If you happen to be editing a series that was set up as a fill shifts option, new shift, fill shifts, you do have to adhere to the prescribed shift pattern. It won't offer you options outside of that pattern. Other things you may need to do, you may at times need to remove someone from the schedule. Okay, so let's say that our friend Victor Vermont here suddenly has had to move, okay, and can no longer be a part of the schedule. Well, I can come down here, I can choose the position that he's a part of, and just uncheck the box. Okay, that removes him from the Resources tab. It also removes him from the Rostering tab, so it also removes all of the shifts that he had been assigned to. Okay, and if he were assigned to multiple positions, I would need to remove him multiple times, so I would need to remove him up here as well, but I'll save us the time on that. Okay, you can add people. You've already seen how to add people to the schedule, so if you get new people that you need to integrate, you can always go back to that Edit Resource Structure window. You need to change a shift pattern, you can do that. Okay, if you change a shift pattern, it does not affect any of the existing shifts that people have signed up for, but it will, affect what they're able to sign up for in the future. Okay, so it won't change any existing assigned shifts, but it will change the options that people are able to self-sign up for in the future, because that prescribed shift pattern will be different. And then the last thing I'll talk about in terms of updating these schedules, and we'll move on to other stuff. You can always at the Details tab make changes if you need to change the name or add another editor, or maybe you want to change from manual to automatic. You can come here and make those changes and click Save. And you can also, if you ever have to, you can inactivate the schedule. Just choose inactive and come down here and save. Some things to know about inactivating, and just let me go back to the slides. I'll just buzz down really quickly to that section. You're typically going to inactivate a schedule if you're replacing one with another, right? If maybe your region just decided you want to bundle those duty officer schedules differently. You want them to cover different geographies. You can go in and inactivate the one you're not going to use anymore. Okay, we want to be sure that we have just one duty officer schedule active for a given geography, and we want to be sure not to leave part of the geography without a duty officer schedule. So, if the schedule is active, it displays for self-registration at the DAT app. It's recognized as a potential duplicate when a new schedule is created. It displays it in the Event Records Dispatch tab, and if it's an automatic schedule, it will fire those notifications. When you inactivate a schedule, it no longer displays for self-registration at the app. It's not recognized as a potential duplicate when a new schedule is created. It doesn't display it in Event Records Dispatch tab, and if it was set up for automatic, it no longer fires notifications. Okay, so it's, doing in activating a schedule is easy, right? The clicks are really easy to do, but it's not something you want to do lightly, right? Because we want to make sure that our various geographies are covered by the duty officer schedules. Okay, so I think we've worked through all the maintenance stuff that we wanted to work through, and so we're about to shift gears and start talking about other regional leadership tasks. Before we do that, before we get away from the schedules, does anybody have any questions, anything kind of nagging at anybody that you would like to get cleared up before we take on some other topics? Okay. All right. Sounds like we're good. So let's move ahead. Here's the stuff we're going to talk about now. None of these things is nearly as involved as the duty officer schedule piece, so we'll be able to work through these rather quickly. We're now going to talk about how you can establish regional notifications for event and event status updates, how you can work with vehicle records in the system, how you can work with other users' contact cards or their contact information. We'll show you how to create a non-volunteer connection contact record, and how you can ask the system about, who has which permissions in the system for your region. Okay, so this is where we're going to go next, and we'll start with these event notifications. And the driver behind this, sort of the use case behind this, is you likely have people in your region who are not duty officers, right? They're not responders. They're not always going out to support event responses, but it helps for them to know what's going on, right? These are people who, have a need to know that there is an active event in the region, okay? Those folks can receive one or two regional event notifications, okay? The first ones we just call regional event notifications, and the system sends these when a new DAT event is created in the system, okay? So it's an event that's not associated with the DRO and where the require Red Cross action value is set to yes, okay? So that's an event. And when that happens, then these regional event notifications are automatically sent by the system. So they're informational. They do not require action on the part of the recipient. So it's different from an automated duty officer notification where the duty officer says yes or no as to whether or not they can handle that event, or a notification out to a DAT member asking them to respond where they say yes or no. This is an informational only message. It's sent via email and text, okay? And it is also sent in real time, right? So as soon as that event record is created in the system, bam, the system sends that notification. The only exception to that is if it happens to be an event where it was indicated that immediate action is not required, and it happens to have occurred after 9 p.m. and before 8 a.m. local time. If those two conditions are met, then the system will hold on to that notification until 8 a.m. Local, and it will send the notification again. So you guys can be thinking about and talking with your leadership and among yourselves, who wants to get these notifications that a new event has happened? It wants to get them via text and email. And then once you have that list of people, you can go into the system and indicate who should receive them, okay? Similarly, there is an event status update notification. This one is not at the level of, just one notification per event. This is at the level of up to 3 notifications per event because it indicates when an event status changes to assigned, to on-scene and off-scene. And on the off chance that an event gets canceled, it will indicate that as well. So these, again, might fire up to 3 times for a single event. So they are sent via email only. These don't come out via text. These are also informational. They don't require action on the part of the recipient, and they fire in real time. And so there's the 2 different notifications that people might accept, and I will show you in just a second how to go in and determine who gets them. People who receive them do need to have in volunteer connection, an accurate email address, and an SMS text number. And if they happen to have multiple email addresses listed in volunteer connection, like a primary and secondary address, they will receive these notifications at both. Okay, so it'll show up in both of their email boxes. So let me show you what it looks like. It's really easy to go in and indicate who should get these. So I'm going to go back to the system. I'm going to go back to my regional leadership dashboard. I'm going to go to a little different tab. I'm going to go over here to the My Region tab. So I click on that tab. It lists my region. It lists out anybody receiving these notifications. Right now you can see no one is. So I'm going to open up this My Region record. And here we've got two fields, regional leadership notifications, that's the event notifications, and the event status updates. And adding someone is just a matter of clicking this file folder icon, searching for the person who should receive these. Maybe Susan Sapphire should receive these notifications. I select her, I click select, and now she's going to receive them. Okay, maybe Derek December also needs to receive these. Come in here and search for him. Okay, maybe Anna Alaska wants to get these event status updates. Choose her and get them set up. So you just list people out like that and then click save. Okay, that's all there is to it. If someone changes their mind, you know, if Anna says, my goodness, my email box is going crazy, what have you done to me? I can come here and just click the X to take that away. And then just click save. Then so she won't get them anymore. Okay, so you guys could set those up for whoever needs to be receiving them. And again, you've got some flexibility. Someone decides they don't want to get them anymore, it's not a problem to take it away. And, you know, along those lines, one thing I'd like you to know is that those people who need to know about events, you know, they can also proactively go look to see what's going on. You know, some people like to have information pushed to them. Other people like to go get it. For people who like to go get it instead, the DAT app does have a current events feature where someone can, you know, keep track of the events that are going on right now, so they can just go look in the app and see what the current events are. Or if they have access, you know, to the system, they're comfortable working in the system, if they've got regional leadership, duty officer, or DAT coordinator permissions, the events tab lists all of the region's events from the last 90 days. So they can get that information from some other places, okay? So that's information that's good to know as well if someone decides they don't want to get those notifications. Okay, so that's the notifications piece. The next thing we're going to talk about are vehicle records, because you guys can create these vehicle record system, and if they're in the system, they are visible to duty officers who are supporting event responses, and the duty officers assign an event to a specific response. Okay, so this whole piece with event management is optional. It's not something, you know, that you have to do to use the system, but it may bring you some value. So let me show you what it looks like for a duty officer to assign a vehicle to an event response. So if I go back into the system, and I'm going to, for just a minute, I'm going to stop being regional leadership, and I'm going to be a duty officer instead. And I'm going to go into the system as a duty officer. I'm going to go over here to the Events tab, and I'm going to grab a particular event. I'm just going to resort these so that the newest ones are at the top. Okay, and there's this 702 Pine Grove Drive event. So let's say that as a duty officer, I am working that event. I'm over here at the event resources list for that event. Okay, and notice that the event resources list, sure, it lists people. These are DAT members who may be able to respond to the event. But I can also click on this ARC response vehicle listing at the bottom. And if I do, I see the regional vehicles listed over here. Now, it's only going to show me vehicles that are not all currently assigned to another event and that are configured, and the indicator is in the record that they're available for service and available to the DAT program. But if I want to add one of these vehicles, let's say I want to add the Jeep Cherokee Wilmington to this response, I just check the box, and now the system knows that this vehicle is associated with this event response, and it will be unavailable to other event responses until this current response goes to a status of either off scene or canceled, which indicates, either way we're kind of finished with the DAT piece for that response. Okay. So in order for that to happen, you guys have to create the vehicle records in the system, right? They're not going to be available to select unless we have records for them in the system, and that's what you guys as regional leadership can do. You guys can go in and create these records, update them, and delete them. Duty officers have the ability to update them, but they can neither create nor delete. So this is primarily your province, right? The province of regional leadership staff. So just one quick word before we go in and create one of these records. There are two status fields that are in play on these records. One is vehicle status, and that can be set for either in fleet, which means that the vehicle is available for assignment, or removed from fleet, which means it's unavailable for assignment. The possibility there is maybe that's at the garage, right? It's being worked on. So it's removed from fleet, so it's not available to be used. The other status is the assignment status, whether or not it's available for DAT. You could, for example, have an IRV that is generally available for DAT, but if it is assigned to a DRO, then it's no longer available for DAT that period of time. So you would switch it to not available for DAT until it comes back and is again available. So these are status fields you keep an eye on. And, any of these three conditions prevent the vehicle from being listed there for selection by a duty officer, like I just showed you the duty officers can do. Right? Number one is it's currently assigned to a different event that has a status other than off-scene or canceled. If it has a vehicle status of removed from fleet, or it has an assignment status of not available for DAT. If any of those three conditions are met, then the vehicle doesn't appear for selection by the duty officer. So those status fields are important. All right, so let's see what it's like to create a vehicle record. So again, I'm going to go back in here and be a regional leadership person again. And I'm going to go to the territories, to the vehicles tab, which I'm not seeing. So I need to click this little arrow. And there's the vehicle management tab. I'm just going to click on it. Here you can see the vehicles that are currently in play. If I click on that Jeep Cherokee record and open it up, and I click over here on assignments, you can see that it is currently assigned. It was formerly assigned to this event, but that event ended, so it was available again, and now it's assigned to this 702 Pine Grove Drive event, and it's currently assigned to that. Okay, so you can always tell whether or not a vehicle is currently assigned by going over to that assignments tab. I'm just going to go back to the tab, and I'm going to create a new vehicle record. So I just want to click New Vehicle, and I'm going to give it a name. I'll just say this is the Chevy Blazer Wilmington. Oh, wait a minute. I already have a Chevy. Okay, that is absolutely my fault. Short-term memory. We have a Chevy Blazer Wilmington. This is going to be the Ford Explorer in Wilmington. Okay. So we're going to call this Ford Explorer, Wilmington. Okay, you can put the license plate number in here if you want to. You can put the VIN in, you can put the color, the make, the model, the year, and there's a type option. I think vehicle's all we've got there. You can upload a picture if you want to do that. There is a size limit on that, of course. The vehicle owner, is it a Red Cross vehicle? Was it rented by the Red Cross? Whoa, stop that. I apologize. Oh, wait a minute. Is it over here? There we go. All right, that's Pilot Air. That's my folks. Okay. Let me just, yeah, this is where we were. Okay, very good. Who's the vehicle owner? Is it a Red Cross vehicle, a non-Red Cross vehicle? Is it a rented Red Cross vehicle? The vehicle group, is it dedicated for emergency response or not? The subgroup, you can make a selection. You can add notes. Here are those two status fields I talked about, in fleet and available for DAT. That means unless it's assigned to another event, it's going to be available. And the vehicle home location. So you can come in here, enter an address, and enter it in such a way that the address gets geocoded. So I'm just going to put 5409 Evaset Drive in Wilmington, North Carolina. And there it is. I select that, go OK. So the system will geocode that and it will put it on a map for me. Okay, so the system can map the home location of these vehicles. It does not map where they are right now. Okay, but it can map their home location where they're typically stored or parked when they're not in use. So at that point, I'm just going to come down here and click Save. And now I've got a new vehicle that's mapped. If I go back to my Regional Leadership tab, it's listed here now, my Ford Explorer Wilmington. Okay, so it's available. It could be assigned on an event response. And if I ever need to make an update to it, I can just come here and click. And man, it's not green, it's actually blue. You can come here and make that kind of change the status, and so forth. Okay, you can also delete these records, just a little bit of wisdom around updating and deleting these vehicle records. If you're changing the status of a vehicle, like maybe you're changing it to removed from fleet or not available to DAT, if you do that while the vehicle is assigned to an event, it does not remove the vehicle from that event response. Okay, it stays there until that event goes to off-scene or canceled. It will, however, of course, prevent it from being assigned to a subsequent event. The other thing is you guys can delete these records as regional leadership, but it will delete the record even if it is assigned to an event response. So before you do a deletion, you want to check first to make sure it's not already assigned to another event. And so, you know, if you were working with this new record that I just created, the Ford Explorer, I would want to buzz over here to the Assignments tab, make sure it's not currently assigned to anything before I do a deletion. And if you need to do a deletion, you come down here. There's a vehicle deletion section. Just say delete vehicle, yes, save, and it goes away. Okay, so if I go back to my Regional Leadership tab, the vehicle's deleted, and you can see it's no longer here. Okay, so that is vehicle management. Let me pause for just a second, see if anybody has any questions on that piece. Okay. Feels like it's tracking, so that's good. We've got just a couple of other things to work with, so we'll go in and work with them now. I'm going to go back to the Regional Leadership dashboard. I'm actually going to buzz over here to the Contacts tab of the dashboard, because you can do a couple of things here as regional leadership staff that have a lot of value. One is this section of the screen, user account types for contacts in my region, is where you can go in and find out what permission level in RCView DAT Dispatch a particular person has. Okay, so if I, it's occurred to me, I need to know what Sam September's permissions are in the system. I can come here to have name like. I can look up his name. I've done that twice, and I don't know what the click path is that's causing that to happen. Let me just get rid of some of these extra tabs. Okay. Let me come back in here. There you go. Have name like September, apply user rules. Now it tells me that Sam September has the regional leadership permissions in the system. Okay, so if you've got an individual, you need to know their permission level. At the Contacts tab of the Regional Leadership Dashboard, you can easily come in here and ask the system that question. The other question you can ask is, who in my region has a particular permission level? So I can come down here to the Have User Account Type Containing. If I want to see everyone who has regional leadership, I can just choose Regional Leadership and then click Apply User Rules. And now I can see everybody in the region that has regional leadership access. And if I want to see duty officer access instead, I can just come back here, choose uncheck regional leadership, check duty officer, apply the rules, and see the search results. And if I want to get back to my default here, I can just choose none. So this is a valuable thing. I don't know how often you'll need it, but when you need it, it comes in really handy. Another critical thing that you can do here is create a new non-volunteer connection contact. And again, the use case for this, the reason you may need to do this, is if you want to schedule a DAT phone as opposed to a human, and some regions like to do that, they either have literal phones that they hand off from person to person, or maybe they have a number that gets forwarded to different people at different times. You can schedule assets like that, but you have to create them first, and this is where you do that. You just go here to new non-volunteer connection contact. You choose the non-volunteer connection users group. You click Next, and you've got a little screen here where you create this record. And these are really simple to create because we're only worried about 3 of these fields. So one is the first name field. We're going to start with that phone and then, put in your region name or the territory that, where this particular DAT phone or phone number gets used. For this demonstration, I'm going to put my name in here, DAT phone handy, demo, Thursday. We're going to use the first name only. We're not worried about the last name, the position, or any of this other stuff. We're going to put the phone number in, of course, and the only phone number field we have is cell phone. So I'm just going to go ahead and put in a phone number. And I am going to, here in the address field, I'm just going to put in a city and state so that the system knows, geographically, what area is this asset associated with and can kind of judge its region and division based on that. So I'm just going to put Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm going to give the system a chance to recognize Raleigh so I can choose that and get that geocoded. Here we go. Took it a second. There it is. And now I just click Save. I just click OK. And so now this non-volunteer connection contact is in the system and ready to go. And so, if I'm working as regional leadership and I've got a duty officer schedule up or a DAT coordinator who has a DAT schedule up, you can schedule that asset, okay, that non-volunteer connection contact. So I can come in here, for example, and look for Thursday, and here's my DAT phone, Andy Demo Thursday. I can add it to the Resources tab, and if it's added to the Resources tab, then I can schedule it for a shift. Okay, and so what would happen is either the if it's a manual schedule, the dispatcher would call the number for that DAT phone. Or if it were an automatic, duty officer schedule, then bam, the system would automatically contact that DAT phone for a voice call. Okay. So that's the non-volunteer connection piece. Okay. So the only other thing that we want to do is work with contact information. And in order to do that, I'm actually going to leave our training environment. We've been working in the training environment this entire time. And this demonstration actually goes a little better in production, because there's one thing that we can see in production that's just not a part of the training environment, and I want you to see that. So I'm going to leave this training environment, and I'm going to log into the production environment. So this is what it's like to log into the real RC view. Uh-oh. Man, I'm bad. I apologize. I did something wrong. Let's try that again. Okay. There we go. My fault. And then I just click on DAT, and that takes me in. And for this environment, I have admin permissions. So you're seeing a lot more stuff up here at the top than what you would normally see, but I'll go to that regional leadership dashboard. So you guys are able, as regional leadership, not only do you have the contacts tab on your dashboard, you also have the contacts tab up here at the top of the screen. And you can go contacts directory, and you can look up someone's information. Okay, so you can come here, and I'm actually going to look myself up, but you can certainly look up other people. So you can do a search for someone and open up their record, and you can do some important things at someone's record. First of all, if you ever just need somebody's contact information, you can come here and get it. Now that contact information also appears on various schedules, so you can go to those schedules and see somebody's phone number, their text number, and so forth. But if you're not sure which schedules they might appear on, et cetera, you could just come here, bring up their record, see their email address and any phone numbers that they have listed in volunteer connection. Okay, so this is one way to come in and get somebody's contact info. You can also, up at this top part of the screen, you can see someone's emergency contact information. I hope you never have to do this, but you could potentially come in here and see emergency contact information for someone, including the contact info. And this is why I'm demonstrating in production. In the training environment, we see this message about available in volunteer connection, but you don't see the fields under it. Okay, so I wanted you guys to see what these fields look like. The other thing you can do here is set someone's notification preferences. So you might have some people in your region who are hesitant to use the mobile app or the web-based version of that app to set their preferences, and so you might need to go in and set them for them. Now, I will say that it's much easier to do what I'm about to show you through the app or the version, and so you may have an easier time of this, coaching someone through the use of those interfaces. But quickly, I can show you how you can come in here and manage someone's notification preferences. And bear in mind, you cannot set someone's time zone for them, right? They are going to have to do that through either the app or the mobile version, either the app or the web-based version of the app. But here is where you can choose their notification preference, either text, voice, or email. There are a number of things happening at this section, this bottom section of the screen that's kind of noise. It's in the system, but because it's part of the core product, but it's not something we're not using. You can pretend this preferred contact method section doesn't work. We're only worried about the DAT notification preferred contact method. And you could ignore this phone preference business. That's not relevant to what we're doing. You can ignore this after hours tab. It's not relevant to us either at all. So someone's contact information is listed here, and this is where their notification preferences can be managed. Okay. Now, one other note on this is you want to, if you're helping somebody out with this, it makes sense to keep an eye on both sides of the screen, right? So if they're choosing text as their contact method, it's important that they have an SMS text number, right? So if you can check this box for SMS text, but unless there's an SMS text number listed here, they're never going to receive a text from the system. Okay, so it takes both of those things. And the other thing to keep in mind is that if someone's going to receive voice notifications, voice notifications should go to a single phone type. And so there are 4 listed, like home phone, work phone, cell phone, alternate phone. We need to target those voice notifications to one of those listings. Even if it's the same number listed multiple times, we need to target it to one of those listings. And that's very easy to do through the app. But if you need to help someone with that, the secret to it is over here at the Options tab. So you can see there's a work phone and a cell phone listed here. Let's say I want my voice notifications to come to my cell phone. So I come over here to the Options tab and scroll down. And you see these listings over here. So I don't want to get calls on my home phone, so I'm not going to leave that at the default. I'm going to choose Override and leave that voice box unchecked. That's saying do not send voice messages to the home phone. Do not send voice messages to the work phone. I'm leaving cell phone at its default because I'm okay receiving voice messages there, but I do not want voice messages from the system to the alternate phone. So it's this whole override piece is the secret to narrowing down that single phone type or phone listing that's going to receive voice notifications. And so you can do that for someone as regional leadership. Okay, now by way of context, okay, I'm going to log out of this production environment. And instead, I'm going to log into the web-based version of the mobile app. And this is the training environment again. Okay, so I log into the app, the web-based version of the app, and I click on myself. And this is where somebody can set their time zone quite easily, right? They just choose it from the box. This is where they can indicate if they want to get email notifications, and here are the email addresses that they will go to. Just check the box for yes for email notifications. And that whole phone override piece, all you're doing is if you want to get a text, you check the text box, make sure there's a text number here. And to get a phone notification, you check the one phone listing that you would like to get notified on. And I have a cell phone listed, so I've got cell phone chosen down here. So instead of all that override and default and all that kind of stuff, you can just look to see that there's only one phone option selected and that it matches, a phone number up here. So it's considerably easier through this interface. Yeah, yes, please.
Andy, this really affects for our DAT responders, and maybe I'm just missing it. Is there a place in the document section that has that URL for the web-based? I know we have a lot of information. Where do we find that so we can give that to the responders?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's coming up at right here at the end of class. So what we would typically do right now is go out and look at the training stuff anyway. So let's just go ahead and do that.
Thank you.
So
I apologize.
Sure, no, it's a great question. Thank you. Happy to do it. That's where we were going. We'll just go there in a little more focused way as a result of your question. So here's the exchange, and if you want to find the job tools for RCView, just come in here and do a little search for RCView, and you can choose the DAT Dispatch Toolkit. And the document that has what you're looking for, I'm glad you asked because this isn't one I would have highlighted otherwise, is called Options for DAT Responders Without Mobile Access. Okay, and if you click open that document, it gives you that URL right here.
Thank you, Andy.
So no, you're most welcome. This is the document in question for that. Other documents here that are going to be important to you guys for regional leadership. Here's the one that's on creating and managing duty officer schedules. Okay. Here's the one on performing regional leadership tasks. And, because that regional leadership dashboard is so big, we only touched, 4 or 5 of those tabs. You might want to check out this Using RCView DAT Dispatch Dashboards document if you're curious about what's going on some of those other tabs at that particular dashboard. And so those are all documents to help you guys that are available on the exchange. We also have documentation posted out here at the pilot SharePoint site. Those of you who have redcross.org email addresses can access this site. Maybe one of our panelists will send along the URL for it in chat. If you don't have a redcross.org email address, your implementation lead can help you get the information you need from this site. And so if you come here and go to Documents, first of all, if you go to Documents, Regional Leadership, the slides for this class are posted there, so you can get them here. And if you go to Documents, Training Guidance, there is a document in this section called Regional Leadership Training Guidance, and if you click on it, it lists for you, first of all, well, that's not very big, is it? Let's see if I can. Don't mind me, I'm just trying to zoom. Oh, there's the zoom. Okay, my fault. That's maybe too far. And do that one more time. There you go, that's a little better. Okay, sorry about that. Go away, search. So if you look at this document, it tells you what the general users or DAT members are reading and looking at. It's good to understand how they're going to be using the system. And then it's got stuff specific to you guys as regional leadership. So it's got links to some of the job tools. It's got some videos for regional leadership that'll be helpful for you to see about duty officer schedules. And it's also got even a link to our schedule for our for our office hours. So this document is kind of a clearinghouse to other documents and other training resources that'll be useful too. Okay, so that almost takes us to everything we wanted to share. So let me make sure I'm not missing anything here at the end. We did all this stuff. Okay, so we've talked about the training materials. That's good. Again, here are the regions and your implementation leads. Take a minute and note your implementation lead if you need to. And I see we still need to forward that SharePoint URL. We'll get that to you in just a second. We won't stop till that's out there to you. If you guys have questions for us about RCView, there is a Yammer page where you can post questions as well as an email address that you can send them to. And if you have questions about the DAT program, as opposed to the system, if you have questions about the program itself and the procedures and standards for the DAT program, you can send those guys a mail at dat@redcross.org. And you can also go to, they've got a presence on the exchange as well at the Disaster Action Team Toolkit. Okay, so you can go to their site or send them email. And that's really, guys, that's what we wanted to share. So we really appreciate, all the time this morning. It's a big bite out of your day. So I appreciate your patience. I also appreciate our panelists. It was a big bite out of their day as well. So big thanks to them. And, by way of closing, we'll just, open up the floor to any final questions and kind of make sure we're caught up on the the questions from chat. Does anybody have anything pending that we need to address?
Andy, this is Hal.
Hey,
in the vehicle management,
yes, sir.
was there any intent to track personal vehicles or just company vehicles?
I think the intent is to track company vehicles. I think you could, you could certainly put a personal vehicle in there. I don't think anything would prevent that. The one field I'm thinking about is, let me go back. Oh, let me log out of here.
I was thinking about those who actually go out on DAT calls and they're taking their personal vehicles versus a company vehicle, and whether that needed to be or not. And
I don't think it does. I think the intent behind that was it's in relation, and a lot of the value comes from shared vehicles, right? So you don't have, a duty officer can, if you've got all of the Red Cross vehicles accounted for and their statuses are correct, the duty officer will be able to go to that part of the event resources list and click on that listing and see all of the vehicles that are currently available for use, right? And I think that's where a lot of the value comes. So
thank you.
I don't think you would want to clutter it up with personal vehicles. Yeah, of course. No, great question. Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody else have a question that you would like for us to address? Okay. Awesome. And we're going to get that SharePoint URL out to you. Hang on, I can just grab that. I'm on that URL. I'm on that site. Hang on just a second.
Hey, Andy, it's Ann. I put it out in the chat.
Oh, it's already there. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't see it. My fault. Okay, awesome. Thank you. All right, then. I think we're in business. So thanks to everyone who joined us this morning. I hope you have a good rest of your day. And thanks for all you do. We will talk to you later.